So the mayor will call Sean and the other will be here for the presentation.
Okay.
Fire chief will be in chambers.
You're welcome. Hi, Logan. Good to see you.
So thank you. And then the mayor will also. We don't need to be 6 feet apart. Sit next to me.
Okay.
I will take some photos. And like I said, we are That's the man of the hour.
This is my husband, Corey.
Nice to meet you. He said, don't see what's going on.
Jenny, I'm going to make you co-host again. My internet dropped. I don't know if it did on yours. I got popped out of the meeting. From the last meeting.
Oh, did?
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. I fell out of the Zoom meeting because my internet dropped on the computer. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'll have to promote the panelists, and then if they're public, you allow them to talk, and then you take it away.
Okay. And I see your mom one day.
mute. Is that me? Justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody. At this time, Jenny, if you could take the roll.
Councilmember Thorson?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson? Here. Councilmember Wong? Here. Councilmember Cole?
Here.
Mayor Furlong?
Here, quorum is present. At this time, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So at this time, we have one presentation, and that is a we had the presentation tonight for a Hero Award that was a little over a year ago. I talked to Denny. Denny came and talked to me one day and told me about the event that happened on May 27th of 2020. At that time, it was just a normal day for all of us. You know, we wake up, we start our day, and Denny, you probably get your coffee going. Sean, you get your coffee going, and you head out and go to work. And Denny, you're retired, and you got your family coming over to help you with plantings in your yard. And Sean, you're working your butt off at the golf course. You're working hard at the golf course? Okay, okay. But just a normal day. And then, you know, Sean, you get home and you sit out on your deck and you have a couple pops and you're just kind of enjoying yourself. And Denny, that's when things change. Jack, where's Jack? In the back there. Jack, that's, you know, if you don't know, Jack went into, I believe, cardiac arrest and his heart had stopped. His aunt was there helping and she started asking for help. And Sean heard it from his porch, just sitting outside, and heard the help. But it could have been any other day. I mean, he could have went to the grocery store. He could have went, you know, some other place. The planets were just aligned that day. Sean, with his quick response of hearing just a cry for help, he went into a mode that not survival mode, but you know, he wanted to go help. So he grabbed his AED. How many people have personal AEDs with them? I don't think too many people would have one. A blessing, Sean, that you, with your background, you had an AED in your truck, I believe it was, and he grabbed it and ran over to where the cries were and got looked at the situation, and Jack was in complete no heartbeat at all. So Sean went into his mode of being a EMT, I believe. Sean, are you an EMT? So he's had first aid training, had training with the AED, and from there he shocked Jack, and from there I think I'll turn it over to Jason Mellinger.
Inviting us. Welcome everybody. My name is Jason Mellinger. I'm the fire chief, and along with me I have my assistant chief Brent Fixon and firefighter Miley Sky, paramedic Brittany Bielenberg, and paramedic Colleen Morchanek, who was on the call that day. Also with us here is Tom Loth, our police chief. But as the mayor indicated, so many things to be in place at that time of day to make this possible. One just that pops into my mind, it happening outside, because you know the what ifs, what would have happened had this been inside, would he have known, would he have been able to provide the help? This is not about us in the fire department or the paramedics or the police department. This is about what Sean was able to do. But obviously when you go into cardiac arrest, your heart loses an electrical rhythm, and the immediate treatment for that is an electrical shock. So for him to be able to provide that in a very timely manner is critical. You know, I like to say we have a great system set up between our police department, our fire department, and our paramedics to provide this type of service, but it still takes us time to get everybody that's here over there. And that was jumped by Sean taking action right away. And those minutes mean something. And that's something that we talk about a lot as well. Colleen, do you have anything to add to that at all?
I actually remember the call pretty well for a year ago, but yeah, it's quick action is what was key for this. I'm glad to see that from a position. But, not everybody has an AED, but there is access in public buildings. Look for them when you go in. You never know when you're going to need one. I used one in a gym once and worked like it well as it did for Jack. So I'm afraid to use them. They're user friendly. Good job.
Yeah.
And I would say that, well, after you got him to the hospital, then the doctors said that what saved his life was Sean.
Definitely. Again, we talked about the timeline of being able, the heart's in ventricular fibrillation, and it's just kind of an erratic electrical chaotic mess going on inside there. And eventually, if it doesn't get shocked back into a normal rhythm, it's going to give out at some point. So his actions, they meant so much.
So at this time, if Sean and Jack want to come up.
Yeah, I know they're just telling
Anybody else that wants to come up too, but we like to present Sean with the North St. Paul Hero Award, presented to Sean Erickson for your alert, quick, and extraordinary actions on May 27th, 2020 that saved the life of Jack Broom. The city of North St. Paul would like to recognize you in your immediate action in taking the necessary steps in caring for a neighbor. Presented this day, May 18th, 2021.
As Chief Mallinger said, that the response time in North St. Paul is excellent, but it still takes time to get there. And the only panic that I had in this whole episode was normally my keys are in my pocket or on my kitchen table. I couldn't find the keys to unlock the AED. It took, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. But you know what? I went over, I patted them up. 911 was on the speaker. And as they go through step by step by step, I'm patting him up, and she's at the roll him over, get him on his back. And I thought, this kid ain't got that much time. I can't. So I shocked him once, and it told me to start the compressions, which I did. I heard the sirens. They were 100 miles away. It seemed like. 2 sets of compressions. It told me to back off and was analyzing him. And it analyzed, I'm looking for chest rise. And then just first one on the scene was Joe Allen. And boy, he was coming in hot. He took over the compressions. He did a couple sets, and when it told me no shock advised on the second analysis, I knew we had him back. And the reason I carry the AED in my truck is because you never know when you might need it. With the sheriff's office, I'm an advisor for the Explorers. One of my Explorer kids did an app on Pulse Point for the Eagle Scout project. He physically located every public AED in White Bear, mapped them on the app. I got to thinking one night, I spent a lot of time in places I know don't have them. So I went to a refurbished AED site. I got the recertified AED with a new battery and a new set of pads. It was $500. If you have the means to buy one, and definitely take the training. How many have had the training? All right. The only difference between the training and the real thing, The mannequin does not turn purple, and it does not jump when you shock it. So that's all I got.
I guess words can't really do justice to thank Sean for what he's done for me and provided for me. And it's been a productive year since then. And that's all thanks to Sean's quick action. So, and thank you as well. But, that's all I really have. All I can say is thanks, but words can't really put it in the perspective how much it means to me. Thank you, Sean.
You want to say a couple words? Mom. It is.
I don't expect many of you know me. I am Jack's granddad and Sean's neighbor. And the way the day progressed was I was behind my garage trimming some grass, some weeds. Katie, my daughter here, and Jack were in front of the house digging the holes to plant these plants. And all I heard was Katie yell, "Dad, call 911. I said, "For what?" She said, "For Jack." My God, I started up around the garage to the front of the house, and there he laid. And I got to tell you, I don't know anything about CPR, nothing. But it scares the hell out of you when you're looking down here at your grandson and you're saying, he's dying in front of me and I can't do a damn thing for him. So I was so happy to see Sean come across the street. My God, he covered that 2 yards in about 3 steps and literally took over. And the remarkable job he did is obvious. Jack is here, he's healthy. My family is completely intact. And I appreciate Sean, I appreciate all the EMTs, the firemen, everything, whoever was there. You all contributed, and I owe you a great debt of thanks because you did a magnificent job, and I am so glad to have Jack with me yet. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Molly Bruin. I'm Jack's mom. I'm going to kind of back up a little bit further than what my dad was because the events of what happened really had to have happened the way they did for Jack to be here tonight. I had talked to Jack the night before, and he was going to be going over to my dad's house with my sister to help plant some hostas. And he left me a message the next day. I live in Minnesota. I live in Wisconsin, but I work at Century College. So the day that the event happened, I was leaving work and I was over in Wisconsin and I looked at my phone and I saw I had a message from Jack. So I looked at it and it said, "I'm not feeling great. I'm not going to go over to Grandpa's tonight. Can you go over and help?" And I was a little irritated because I was already in Wisconsin. So I called him and he said, "Oh, I'm actually sitting at Grandpa's table." And I went to Aldi's and I was in Aldi's shopping and I got a call from my sister and said that Jack had dropped over. And had Jack not gone to my dad's that day, he would have been home alone in Forest Lake. He would not have survived. If it would have happened while he was on his way to my dad's between Forest Lake and North St. Paul's Highway, if it would have happened on the highway, that would have been catastrophic. So I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe my sister was outside for a reason, and that was to yell really loud. Sean and his friends were having iced tea on the patio and heard that. And, you know, my dad, I have to say, my dad said, maybe it's Joe Allen. Is he a big guy? Well, my dad has told me probably about 10 times, I don't know how in the hell someone that big could run that fast, but he was there in 3 seconds. But I do thank all of you, Jack. He's a great guy. He was able to finish his nursing degree after he recovered from this, didn't really skip a beat. You know, if anybody has kids, you think the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is losing a child. And it really didn't hit home until that night that happened. And Sean is a hero. He doesn't wear a cape, but he's a hero. And the fact that Jack is standing here, 2 words, thanking you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem like enough. And I just go back to what that doctor told me in the ER when I got to Regions. She kind of wanted a little bit of backstory, and I told her, and she looked at me and she said, I want you to know that the man who had that AED saved Jack's life. I'm beyond grateful. I can't even put into words how grateful I am. And to all of the emergency medical personnel that got to my dad's house so fast, had Sean not hit his AED, one of you would have had it. And I just want everybody to know that I'm so grateful. And Sean, you're a hero. I just can't believe the gift that you gave us. And I just
I had to sit down that night. I was later in the evening. He came up my driveway to the back door in tears, telling me that how could we ever thank you? And having been through that, I got all the thanks I need that night that Jack did not die in my hands.
Yeah. And you know, Jack had also made a post on his Facebook. He doesn't post often, but he said, you know, after this, he wants people to be cognizant of where AEDs are in different facilities. You know, I work at a college. I know where one of them is, but just to be more cognizant of that, because you truly don't know when you're going to need one. And I'm just thankful you had one. All right, I'm going to give you a hug. You wish you would have won first.
I'd just like to point out that Sean bought that 5 years before this all happened, I believe, or maybe even greater than that. So I want to point out the selfishness of what that meant. You know, he had no idea he'd ever use it. He used it.
I've always got it with me.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, we do, Sean. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. You guys want to come up? Can I get my family?
Oh, yeah, you can have everybody.
Jack, why don't you come on the other side of Sean?
And when I went over to thank Sean, he shared some nice tea.
Can you get a little bit closer? I know it's cold.
I'm trying.
If we get the medical.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you want us? In the back, down in front, on your shoulders?
The tall people, maybe.
Well, I should be in the back then.
You don't need to remember it. Everybody else does.
You can take a knee down front.
Yeah, that would be
I
great.
remember
Take a knee down front.
She was 4 steps behind me.
We're good.
We'll help you get up.
Mayor, thank you for doing this a year later. I know with COVID and stuff, but thank you for recognizing it. All right. And I'm sure the rest of this is going to be riveting, but I'm a Wisconsin resident. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
get to
yeah.
listen to.
Get you to put it on the table.
Really good
We can get a
job.
picture of it.
Sure. Just set it down.
Sure.
New Richmond.
Nice to re-meet you maybe. I think I've maybe seen this thing before. Yeah, with the mask, it's a little difficult, but yeah. I think probably the first time I mentioned ours here, would have been peeking out.
Oh, really?
Mask, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I cleaned up a little bit. We get more with one. Thank you. Yeah.
I can thank you. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Great.
again.
I mean, I can do it any morning, but Tuesdays and Thursdays less of a burden on you guys at work. We'll clarify. Kenny. Thank you. I've always got.
We'll see, Danny. Yeah. It's a year later. It's like, wow.
It was nice, everyone still showed up.
Mhm.
We made it work.
Okay. We'll go ahead and restart the meeting here. Okay, we have the consent agenda. That's the May 4th, 2020 workshop minutes, May 4th regular meeting minutes, the general claims of $1,452,383.10, financial transparency reporting, and the 2019 to 2022 Metropolitan Council Water Efficiency Grant modification. At this time, if there, any council member wants to pull item at this time, they can do so. If not, a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cole,
Second.
second by Councilmember Wong. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. This time the meeting is open to the public, and we like to limit it to three minutes for each person, and we limit it to 15 minutes for the whole session. So at this time, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to the council?
We do have one online, Mayor, John, and he's available to talk.
Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor. John Schmall, 2750 Chisholm Avenue. Every once in a while, I wonder why I do this, but it's kind of like the story of the king's new clothes. If someone didn't tell them or tell him, he wouldn't have known what the problem was. So my intent here is to, if you think these meetings go just perfectly, they don't. For the workshop, there was nothing except a picture of Gloria Reinhardt until 5:11. No audio, just a picture of Gloria Reinhardt. At 5:11, it changed to a live view of Gloria Reinhardt. And to her credit, she's probably been on a lot of these things where things don't go right. She didn't say anything, but we had a view live of Gloria Reinhardt. And I think it was around 5:16, 17 that the council chamber came up, and Jason was talking, but there was no audio. And then finally, another 5 minutes, the audio came up. So then it went on fairly well from that point. No glitches that I noted, or maybe I just gave up on it. And then we now go to the agenda for tonight's council meeting. And there are, when you go to the agenda center, there's 3 agendas. And there was made mention on the menu one where you pick your poison of an agenda, that there were these additions, tasers, there must have been like 4 or 5 of them. But if you go to the, and there wasn't anything in red, you know, indicating that this was an addition, whatever. So I'll take back my thank you from the previous council meeting. But you had to go to all 3 of them, take a look at them, and they're all the same. They all have the corrected agenda. They all have A through G on agenda 1, agenda 2, and agenda 3. So any time wasted trying to find out what the change was useless. Frustrating. Then there is the toilet thing, the grant. And in the body of the multi-page document, it says that the authorized rep for the city of North St. Paul is none other than Nick Fleischacker. And right underneath that is a statement that says, you must immediately tell the Met Council if there's a change. And that must be done within 30 days. And Mr. Fleischhacker's name appears 4 times, I think, in that document. So you might want to update it. Maybe you don't want to. But anyway, I did in fact see that. And then you have something on the change in the emergency declaration and agencies involved in causing the change to happen, the governor and all this stuff, but no mention of the organization that caused the whole thing to go down about a week ago, and that's the CDC. Just a thought to include it. Last item is talking to my neighbor, commiserating over what happens when on a Ford, the heater door starts skipping and you get one side of the car has heat and the other side doesn't. He said that to me, he says, I don't know what to do. He said, they won't call me back. And I said, who? And he said, code enforcement, they won't call me back. And he has a problem with his neighbor, not me, thank God. And he said, leave messages for Mackenzie, leave messages for Jason. And though he did say he left a message for Doug, and Doug called him back and said, I just want to let you know that I'm no longer going to be involved in code enforcement. That was news to me, probably news to a lot of people. Again, it is just frustrating that a citizen can't get a call back when he makes a call. I have to believe him. I've never had a chance or been confronted with anything that I said that he's a liar. So maybe through this meeting mention that he could get a call back, but I never got a call back from what I brought up in the last go around. So maybe I'm not holding out hope. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Anybody else, Scott? So at this time we have city business action items and recommendations, and I'll turn it over to City Manager Dudek. We're all getting used to this new format here, so.
Okay, Mayor and Council, thank you. The first item that we have, this is brought forward from previous meetings and discussions, and that's to your consideration in approving an ordinance and establishing the Arts and Culture Commission. Along with that, it would remove, permanently remove the Design and Historical Review Commission. We've talked about this at a previous meeting, and I've also had this posted on our website for the public's review and comment. So this evening, we bring it back to you for your consideration and approval. There was also one small item that was added, and I could have our city attorney, Shana Coughlin, who I believe is on the line, comment on this, but we did add a section to it that would address, after the group is formed, to create bylaws of that would establish meeting times and things of that nature. Shana, are you available?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. That is accurate. There was one small change given the feedback from council at our last meeting, just indicating that city council will be able to approve the bylaws. And then additionally, that the bylaws must set regular meetings and also set attendance requirements, and indicate that, a member would be subject to removal if they didn't meet those attendance requirements. Ultimately, the authority to appoint and remove members to the commission still remains with City Council. And with that, that was the only update to the ordinance. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, that's any other questions or that you might have? Otherwise, it's for your approval.
Any questions for City Manager? If not, we got two motions. One is, the first motion is to motion to an ordinance amending the North St. Paul City Code of Ordinances, Governances, Boards, and Commissions. The City Council of the City of North St. Paul, Section 1 is hereby repealed in its entirety. And Section 2, the Design Review Commission, is hereby abolished. And Section 3, this ordinance shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The second motion is for the an ordinance amending the North St. Paul City Code of Ordinances, Title 3, Governances, Boards, and Commissions, establishing the Arts and Culture Commission. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cole.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wong. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. This time I've got past council member, if you want to come up here, and we've got the arts, so Tom Sonic.
Chair's warm, Tom, if you want me to leave, but
kind of.
You're good.
We kind of, you're doing, before you left the council, we talked about the Arts Council for quite a long time, and now it's here, and we're happy to have you aboard, and it's established. So maybe talk about things that you could see. We haven't established any members on the council, on the commission yet, but maybe give us a feel for what you see this looking like.
sure. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this and have an arts commission created for the city of North St. Paul. At this point, it's nothing other than an ordinance. And so I really look forward to working with the city to find residents throughout the city who are interested in being involved in this commission. And then we can build this thing together, determine what exactly we think it should be, and with council's guidance as well, to take that forward and create a presence of arts throughout the city. I think one of the things we had talked about, it's been bandied about for a few years now, is having some murals as public art in the downtown space. And I think this is an opportunity with the commission to help bring some funds in, whether they be from the Legacy and Arts funding or from other areas. It gives us a vehicle to bring in some of that grant money or some of that tax allocation. So hopefully we can, with the help of City Hall, try and get some of that money so that we can do some of that art throughout the city. So my focus has really been public art, so whether that's murals, painting, sculptures, that type of things, beautifying the city's landscape. But could it also be something more than that, where it includes the performing arts? It could be. I think we just have to kind of take it one step at a time and see what the appetite is and see what the public interest is. So, but I'm really excited for it. And I know the mayor and I have talked to one artist who lives in town who's very interested in doing a mural. I have another former North St. Paul resident who would die to do a mural downtown. So there are lots of artists out there. So I think we can do some really neat things to help beautify the city.
And I give you credit for bringing this forward.
Oh, thank you.
Or being a part of creating this.
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. These sounds like some pretty strong words from a future chair of the Arts Commission. It sounds like to me. Or
he's on the list.
It's
I serve at the pleasure of the council. So however it works out, but I'll hopefully find some good people. And I think Scott, if maybe next step is to work together to get something out there on the website or.
Yeah, we'll definitely put that out and promote for applicants for the commission.
Fantastic. So we'll be looking for people. So if there's anybody watching who's interested in, or knows somebody who might be interested in an arts commission and figuring out what that can be for the city, we look forward to talking to people about it.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate
Great.
it.
Thanks very much.
Yep. Have a good night. City manager.
Mayor, Council, the next item that we have on the agenda this evening for approval is the purchase of electric meters for the electric utility department. And unfortunately, our electric director is not with us here this evening. If you all give us thoughts and condolences and your prayers for our electric director, Brian Frandl, his mother passed away, and that the services will be held tomorrow. So our thoughts and prayers for Brian. This is a proposal that was brought forth from the Electric Utility Department for the purchase of 224 electric meters with the attached quote. So looking for your approval for that.
Any discussion, questions for Scott?
Was this already budgeted or was there some?
Yes, this is part of the electric utility budget.
Okay.
I'm sure Brian would have a big, some sort of presentation, but
yeah.
Right, so the motion is resolution authorizing the purchase of 224 electric meters. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Councilmember Thorson. A second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Are we kind of off tonight? It seems like things are just kind of slow here. City manager.
Next item is the 2020 Street and Utility Improvement Project, and this is pay voucher number 10. That's come forth. This has been reviewed and approved by our consulting engineers, WSB, and is brought forward for your consideration for payment.
Any discussion, questions for Scott? If not, the motion is for payment of the 2020 Street and Utility Improvement Project pay voucher number 10. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Wong.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, the next item that we have on the agenda for this evening is your consideration in the purchase of tasers and training for our police department. We've got Chief Loff on this evening, and also a representative from Brandon from Taser to talk about this. This is a equipment within the police department that I believe Tom will talk about, our police chief, dating back to 2005. So our equipment is quite outdated with many out of service due to that. This would bring us really up to the current time, very much in line with training. This project would be distributed out over 5 years. Training that would go along with that for 5 years, virtual training, really something that we've never seen. It utilizes technology. It's an all-in program. And maybe with that, I'll start out with Chief Loff on his comment, and then we can bring in Brandon from Taser to give some more background on it. Chief.
Welcome, Chief.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Pretty much what we're looking at is the tasers we purchased back in 2005, 4 of them. We got that from basically from the Rotary Club helped us purchase those. And with 4, obviously we have, close to that many officers on the street. They weren't always in service, being as they'd have to be in a state of recharge, meaning that they had been, the battery had worn down in them, and or if they had been discharged or something, then they had to be downloaded and other things to go with them. So oftentimes we'd only have like 2 available. And eventually over the years, we'd add, 1 or 2 here or there. We've got the North St. Paul Business Association that helped us get some more, and another business. And pretty much for a long time, we didn't have sergeants carrying them, or myself as chief. Obviously, I've never carried one just because we never had enough numbers to go around for all the officers out there in the department. We're getting to that stage again, as we have at least 2 that are non-functioning, and we have 2 that are starting to show errors. But these have been refurbished over the years, and we've gotten, for the most part, we've gotten over 10 years out of all of them, some 15, and they're well past their life expectancy. In fact, we're almost past the life expectancy of the next model that came after those. And the newest model that's out there now is the T7, which we're looking to refurbish. But at some point here, we're going to have to purchase new tasers or go without. And going without, that puts us in a very poor position of not having a non-lethal option for force when necessary. As you know, with these things do happen, but it's not always up to the officers. It's up, people predicate, the response and things to other people. So it's a great tool for the officers to have, and having those intermediate force responses are what's really the future, and it's so necessary. And it's just, with where we are with our equipment right now, it's just, I think I heard in the workshop earlier, like, some of the equipment things have often been put off at times just to help with budgetary issues and been let slide. And that's kind of where these have been. It's just, with over the time of trying to keep taxes down, try to buy only what is necessary. And we've pushed these things well past their life expectancy. And we are going to have more failures on them, and we are going to be without a very important piece of equipment. So going forward, this is something, that should have been addressed quite some time ago, but we're getting to a dire need on them now. And just looking forward to what is available on the Taser 7 is such a much better product than what we have out there, and just the amount of things that are applicable to it. As for the training that's allowed with it, the program that Taser now offers with it, they take care of most of your cartridges, your training. And this is it offers also a virtual mode, which I think that's where a lot of training is going in the future, because, as you know, there's going to be more and more police training mandated. So it just offers a lot more than what we have. And the performance of it is so much better than what we currently have. And when you look at it, it sounds like a big number originally, almost $70,000. But when you break it up in the payments over the 5 years, you're down to under 14. And just as an example, just our maintenance budget on our RMS, I believe, is up around 16 grand a year now. Our what we pay for the dispatch and everything, which of course is necessary, is always been close to around 100 grand a year. So these are unfortunate costs that are just a part of reality with it. And the thing is, as I say, with the equipment, we have to be more cognizant of their lifespan and replacing things on a more regular basis so that we don't get into these areas where we are sitting here with 15-year-old equipment, which Taser doesn't even make this model anymore. They put it out of service in 2014, I believe, when they introduced a new model in 2013. And that model, the 2013 model, is only guaranteed for 5 years if you were to purchase it now, but it's not much of an upgrade on the previous model. And and you'd just be buying old equipment, and we'd be right back there in a short time. That Taser won't be producing that one anymore either, or refurbing them. And so that's why I recommend that the council take a hard look at our equipment request on the Tasers and how we're able to respond in law enforcement.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. I also have Brandon from Taser on the line, so I could have him give a brief overview of the Taser, and then if you have any other questions. So Brandon would really be able to go into the in-depth technical use and the training and some of the liability coverages that are also in place with this Taser. Brandon, are you available?
I'm here.
It's kind of interesting how old our Tasers are. It sounds like it's not a good thing to have Tasers that are, how old were they?
2005.
Pretty old.
Brandon, go ahead.
Welcome, Brandon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I think Chief kind of summarized most of the reason that we're having this discussion. I can kind of point to kind of some of the things that are important to know with the plan that basically we're looking at, which would cover the department for 5 years. I know it sounded like most cartridges would be covered. In this case, all cartridges would be covered for both training and for duty use. And as well as it covers, our actually very brand new the virtual reality training, which is just, additional training to send officers through for community engagement, as well as simulation to basically kind of put some best practices into use and kind of get that memory of what to say, how to, and also the muscle memory of drawing tasers versus firearms, things like that. So I'm happy to answer any questions or can dive deeper into what exactly the plan involves. But this is something where the nice part is it will be all inclusive for 5 years. And there, unless another officer was added to the force where a new taser was needed, there'd be nothing needed on the taser side.
Any questions for Brandon or Chief?
I have a few questions.
Yep.
This question is for Brandon. Thank you for joining us today. Can you speak to the reason for bundling versus alternative, ways of selling the tasers?
Yeah. So I think in an original, set of emails that I had, sent around with both Chief and with Scott, where we can absolutely break it out a la carte. Over 5 years, you will 100% be paying more over 5 years. So this was, the reason that we bundle is to make sure you have everything that you need. And also we have a big emphasis on the training side of it, where the minimum amount of training you need to certify any existing taser is 2 cartridges per year to just deploy them, as well as the classroom training. We, in years 1 and 3, we double that. And actually every officer will have 8 training cartridges deploy in those 2 years, plus 4 in years 2, 4, and 5. So with a new platform, the reason we bundle is to provide as much training as possible and to obviously give as much as we can into the plan. by basically purchasing it up front as opposed to the a la carte mode, which again, you're welcome to do. It will just come out. It will 100% come out more over the 5 years.
Thank you. And then I have some questions for Chief Floth.
Go ahead.
Can you speak to how this will be implemented in terms of our use of force policy as it exists now?
Well, currently we do have tasers as one of the options in there. So that, I mean, that policy was written quite some time ago, and it's been minimally updated since, as because, well, we haven't changed the model. So it's still applicable as to back in 2005 as for what was being used, but it is the use of force on the continuum there that we have is, I mean, it's a non-lethal, intermediate use of force.
Thank you. And so I found some data in regards to taser use policies within North St. Paul. And I see that there are forbidden discharges for people who are pregnant, which I find really important. There are restrictions for folks who are elderly, whether the police officers can use force there with the tasers, forbidden in terms of areas that are flammable, and then also if there's a fall involved. Are there cases in where the use of tasers would be applied to juveniles, people who are unconscious, people experiencing mental health crises?
Obviously, you wouldn't use it on somebody who's unconscious. I don't know who would. That's where that would be. But as for juveniles, I mean, I don't know. Are we talking about? I mean, are you talking like a 5 or 6 year old, somebody just under 18? I mean, there's different levels in there. Obviously, we wouldn't want to use it on a juvenile by any means. Certainly, none of the bad stories we've seen nationally where you've seen some officers from some other states maybe using a taser on a 3rd grader or a 14 or 15-year-old child or something like that. That, I mean, obviously everybody can see those and those shouldn't be, but I mean, we limit our uses of force where you can use it on a person and everything on that for the taser deployment. So though, I mean, those wouldn't be a consideration. I mean, just mental health. No, I don't believe we would use that on, but you're not always knowing when somebody's going through a mental health crisis. Some are obvious, others aren't. And if you're being rushed by somebody all of a sudden with no warning, that may be your option or best option, so that's, like I said, if it's a known person that we're dealing with, no, we're going to do much other things rather than engage that person directly or anything like that, because that's most of the part of it is not to engage somebody going through a mental health crisis there and try to get them talking and get allow some time for some people out there that they can talk with and deal with better than us.
Thank you. And then you also had discussed it as an intermediate option. What are the other options in terms of in place of tasers or other parts of the spectrum when we talk about use of force?
I'm not a use of force instructor, so that's, I mean, I don't operate on the whole continuum like that. But I mean, first and foremost on the continuum is just presence alone. That's considered that. Then you have voice commands. Then you have different soft force, being joint manipulation, stuff like that. There's a whole ladder as you go up there. As for thing is, eventually what you get down to is the highest use of force being potential deadly use of force, and with taser falls well before that. Okay, so that would be, that would be used more so before an impact weapon, which is something that you might see as somebody who would be considered a strike or anything else, or something like that. But so it's basically considered often just above the voice and joint manipulation as to where that force is applied. So
Thank you.
Councilmember Thorson.
Yeah, just a couple comments. I appreciate the questions of Councilmember Wong. But to me, you know, the fact that we've got tasers that go back to 2005, and it seems like, you know, we've gotten our useful life and then some out of them. And the fact that, you know, this is a tool that, you know, helps keep law enforcement safe and people they interact with as far as, you know, a less than lethal method. I guess I'm just more concerned why it's taken so long to do this. I mean, you know, I think we've just kind of failed as a city to address these more, you know, urgent needs for tools that, especially when it comes to public safety and you know, police, fire, what have you. You know, we wouldn't expect our officers to be driving around in a, you know, a 2000 cruiser that's the floors are rusted through and what have you. But, you know, we did authorize some purchases of updating some of these cruisers, and various reasons it gets delayed and pushed back. And now, you know, we got 4 on order now, and that's great. But, you know, I just hope that moving forward, if there ever is a need for things like this, it doesn't get pushed off for 15 years, and that we can have a discussion on it early on, and it doesn't become just some budget line item thing that always gets scratched off. You know, this is certainly rises to a level, in my opinion, of a need and something we should have. And I think a lot of this stuff, at least some of your concerns, I believe, can be and should be addressed through training. You know, that's the only way we can ensure that our officers are handling themselves in these difficult situations that they find themselves in, is that there's proper training. And so I'm glad to hear there's an emphasis on increased training with this that comes along with it. So,
thank you. And I do have a question in regards to training and then the use of force policy. How does that align? Do they align? And that's another question I was trying to get at is do the proposed and virtual trainings that are created by Taser, go ahead, you can answer the question. Do they align with their existing policy, and can they evolve if the policy were to change?
Yes, so that's a great question. Actually, like, sorry, that whole time I was just, you know, kind of itching to say in there the virtual reality training that we're providing actually for some of those exact scenarios that you mentioned with mental illness, with juvenile, things like that. We actually, the community engagement side is already has some of that in play, where you can run through scenarios over and over again, which we look at as the book kind of learning. The simulation side, which is part of this package, is going to basically allow for officers to train through that use of force training. And the nice thing is we don't provide a set scenario and how it's supposed to end. What we do is we provide the scenario and the tools for the trainers to be able to walk them through that scenario and make the variables as difficult or as not as difficult as they choose, and throw in, you know, I guess, kind of different things that could change how the officer might react, and allows them to do that over and over and over again. And if the policy changes, you still have the scenario there that they can simulate through and practice that use of force over and over and over again, essentially in a 10 by 10 space where you don't need to go rent out giant facilities. It doesn't require huge setups. That can all just be done with one trainer, one officer, and honestly, they don't even have to be in the same room anymore. So I'm hoping that can help address some of that question. And ultimately that is, you know, that is really where we're trying to take, you know, the future of Axon is not just, you know, as people know, for tasers and for body cameras, but now the training side as well, where that can, what you're asking for can be accomplished as often and as easily as you want.
Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, what is the current need for use of force in North St. Paul? Has there been like a lot of situations in where use of force, the need for tasers have been discharged on a rate that we should be concerned about?
I think that's a question for Chief Loth.
Chief Loth, if you could comment on that.
All around, just with what the last year has been, you've seen a more aggressive public. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things the officers are dealing with out there, but I don't have the numbers in front of me. I could have, staff run that later for you to see how many deployments have we had, but we have a low number of deployments. We always have over the years. And I think that speaks to some of our policy and some of our training with officers and their ability to apply it in real life situations. So the thing is that we're looking at here more, so it's not, justifying the tool by how often you use it, but having the tool for when it's necessary. Okay, because we can't predict that. And at that time, we don't want to be saying or explain why we didn't have that tool because we considered it unnecessary or too expensive, or it just wasn't, a priority of ours. And that's where we'll get in trouble. So as Councilman Thorson said over there, we're providing a tool, for law enforcement to keep them safe, to keep the public safe. And we don't buy these with the intent, like our firearms too, of using them, but they're there for if they absolutely necessarily have to be used.
Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking of it as I'm just trying to learn. There's a lot of information here that was put on the agenda. It was amended right before. So I'm just trying to learn here what the situation is. And that's where I'm at. Thank you for your comments and answers.
Well, I would absolutely, we have put it out there before. We used to do a Citizens Academy that's been out of vogue for a while, but those are extremely helpful. And as for any of the trainings, firearms, taser, or other use of force things, if the council would like to, we'll definitely make that available, our trainers, for you to observe, watch and stuff. And so you get a better grasp of what's going on. And so you get a real view of it.
What do you do with the old tasers, Tom? Would that be for training? Do you use them for training at all, or they just get recycled?
They'll probably just get recycled. It's just, I mean, the batteries are well past their usage, and it's just it's like, otherwise it's like, being at home and putting something away in that corner of the basement because you don't quite want to part with it yet, and then after a few years you look down there and wonder, oh, where did we get all this stuff? So, but it's time to move it on. Plus, we wouldn't want to have any type of mistake of people having the wrong equipment or anything either.
And just to add on to that, I believe part of the discounts that we offered in there was in the understanding of trading back the old weapons. Mainly for what Chief mentioned is we don't want from our standpoint, we offer some discount off of the new purchase so that they aren't out there for either going to a refurbisher, or also in the off instance where they end up in a drawer and someone takes one out because they couldn't find their, the right one. And then you have an old possibly ineffective weapon out in the field that could cause a problem for anyone. So
sure. That makes sense. Any other questions, discussion?
Mayor, I just wanted to comment on Councilmember Thorson's comment about, why has it taken so long? I think, the comment that the chief made is a lot of this stuff always takes back of budgeting and things like that. And this has really been one of my initiatives to, move forward with some of this equipment that we're so far out of date on, and the need that's out there, not only for the protection of our officers, but protection of our residents, and having the right equipment and training and things to go along with it. And this piece has really got the training over the top, I think, of that. And I just want to throw that out because one of our next subjects, and not to jump forward, but the next subject is also public safety related with Lexapro policy. And so that's really been my effort, is trying to modernize or bring us up to where we should have been some time ago.
Any other discussion? If not, the motion is for resolution authorizing the purchase of 18-Taser 7 from Exxon Enterprise, Inc. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, the next item, as I mentioned, is also a public safety service. This is Lexipol Professional Policy Services. This is something that we had talked about at a workshop previously with Lexipol on that meeting. We do also have, I believe, representatives with us here this evening to help answer questions about this again. And we also have, this would be both for police and fire. So Keith, maybe we could start out with Chief Mallinger and your comments on the Lexipol services.
Welcome, Chief.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me and speaking on this. I'm assuming you probably saw my letter of recommendation and a little bit of the history of where the fire department has been in the past for policies in place, particularly what we have currently have been maintained by previous administration throughout the years over extensive periods of time where we've updated it ourselves and have always wanted to improve things, but obviously it's a very time consuming and we need it to be vetted by our attorneys and other people, and that's just hasn't been getting done. So with Scott's recommendation of taking a look at Lexipol, we've done just that and spent some time working with them and talking with them. Some of the other communities that use it as well within the fire service I've reached out to. Like I said, I had mentioned the city of White Bear Lake, and since then talking to the city of the fire department in the city of Maplewood. And each of those communities used or had used them in different scenarios as what they have to offer through their different tiers. And for us, I think what we're looking at doing is the full implementation of utilizing what they have to offer so they can help get us off the ground. One of the things where we use it within the fire service, we have fire training tomorrow, so it's in the morning and in the evening, and we have some policies in place for RIT training, which is rapid intervention training, what to do when a crew's inside and something bad or when something bad happens, and having a team that's specifically standing by and ready to go in and rescue our firefighters and how that operates. So we have a policy in place that, again, has been there, and we update it when we think there's a good way of doing it. We don't spend or have the opportunity to spend a lot of time with reaching out to other departments and say, what are you doing? We have shared some things in the past, and I have old policies from other fire departments from 20 years ago. However, we're not staying updated. So knowing that, working and talking with Bruce from Lexipol and how he can help us is really appealing and kind of feels like an insurance policy, if you will. I know it's going to cost us some money and it's going to spend some time, but my hope is that it will safeguard at least my firefighters from some sort of danger by us implementing a way to keep things in line and talk about the trainings. And they have the different techniques of utilizing the updated, through the web and the internet for easy ways to train and get things out. So I'm looking forward to that. If you have any questions for me specifically, feel free to ask.
You mentioned that other cities have used this and who are not using it now, that have gotten away from it.
So when So one of the options, or many of the options that laid out through Lexapro, is to kind of help build that and then have your own staff maintain it throughout. So what we're looking at, since these other cities that I have talked to, they have staff within that would continue to maintain things at a different level than what Lexapro would offer us right now. Simply just because we don't have the management staff to get us up and going to where we need to be.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, other departments have other full-time administrative people that can handle putting things together, where, to be honest, I don't have that luxury, and I have to utilize that help from Lexapro to help get those in place. I would be working with them to direct them on what we need and where we need to go. And they would do the work for us.
Do you feel that their time will take time away from you to free up your time where you won't have to worry about implementing? Or
the conversations that we've had is that I would be spending a couple hours, maybe a couple hours a week or two, however we can schedule it out. I work with their staff, direct them, let them ask some questions of me where we want to go, and they take it from there.
And you feel pretty comfortable about that?
At this point, I do.
Okay. Some of the other feedback, Mayor, that we had received from some of the departments that didn't take the full initiative, the full implementation, is that they took the policy in place and it took them many years to actually get it implemented, because just that, if they were trying to do it in-house on their own, it always kept getting the back seat. And this, what's being proposed, is a full implementation with Lexapro, so we can get it put in place. And as the chief mentioned, to just utilize their input rather than all the time being done of work in-house.
Any other questions for the chief? Councilmember Thorson?
Yeah, and I apologize, I was not in attendance for the workshop or the previous meeting when this was discussed, but from my understanding is that, you know, they provide a service to, and it's focused on public safety, police and fire, to update all this policies that, you know, we're expected to have in place on record that everyone understands. And because the event that, you know, let's say the police department, just as an example, used a taser inappropriately, that would obviously open us up to litigation, and their attorneys would probably look there first to say, well, what kind of policies do you have in place, and training records and what have you. And, you know, as a city that has our own police and fire department, that's up to us to make sure that we're on top of that. And doing it in-house, I understand and acknowledge that takes time, and then that stuff needs to be vetted through our attorneys, and that, you know, in this constant changing world, that can get cumbersome or at least get put off. And, you know, so knowing that this is something that we have to do, and it sounds like there's an acknowledgement that there's just a lack of staff time to do it. It sounds like this is something that initially working with them, they can get us up to 2021 standards, and then moving forward, we can either continue to engage with them and be proactive in making updates or changes based off of laws or procedures or whatever, or we can look to do that in-house. So this initial fee that they've quoted us is to get us up to speed, and then at that point, these aren't, like, this isn't an annual charge we're going to get from Lexapro, correct? They're not charging us these prices that are in here. Exhibit A, I believe that's for the fire, and then exhibit something, I don't know, it's in here somewhere. But am I understanding that correctly?
And I'll have Bruce from Lexapro is online. He can give some more background on this and the services and the cost. But there is an annual, so on the Exhibit A, the annual cost there would be $9,971.10 on an annual subscription basis. And then on the item B, which would be for the police department, that would be have a $2,800, $2,889 annual subscription fee.
So the bulk of this is just the implementation.
Correct.
And the time that they go through it, and then.
And we could have Bruce comment, but again, there, the chief's manager's comments that having this vetted by legal staff, that's virtually what the Lexipol service is a team of legal staff that continually stays up on specifically these laws and items specific to this. So no disrespect with our attorneys, but having a local attorney, I mean, obviously they can review it, but these other people are doing this day in and day out across the nation and really staying focused on those things.
Sure, they specialize in that. So I guess this is more of a budgetary question for us. This was not something that we had discussed in 2020 for the 2021 budget, correct?
Correct. The intention for funding of this is would come from our equipment fund.
And then I know we're still kind of adopting these changes now that Jason has worked hard to do, but is there a process, or what's the procedure for, because we've already adopted the 2021 budget and this is a modification for that. Is there a process to submit some revised budget that goes into that open gov and stuff to reflect this change, or how is that handled?
Yeah, Councilmember Thorson, at this time, there's no specific process to request or document, which I think you're probably correct in indicating needs to be developed for council approval to modify or adjust a formal document to do so. But at this time, there's not.
And the only reason why I bring this up is just because of our discussion in the workshop when we're talking about fund balances and levies and stuff. And, if this is stuff that we should be talking about and putting a plan together to budget versus just, well, there's money in the equipment fund, let's go into that. I mean, it's just kind of, I want to be cautious about that. Like, we're not just dipping into fund balances because we can pay for something that just got recently brought up. I think I see the value in this and I understand it, but at the same time, this is stuff that we could certainly just say, no, we're not going to pay for this. And unfortunately, police and fire chief, that's part of your job to make sure we're up on that. But we don't want to, if that's what you're asking and that's what your recommendation is, because it's going to help your departments run more efficiently and you feel this is the right path, I certainly can support it. But I just want to be cautious that this isn't one of those things that we sign up for, we use and continue to pay subscription for, and then we don't utilize.
This would be a strong program beyond just having written policy that would sit on a shelf or sit in a computer document electronically, because that's what this is. But this also provides training bulletins. So training bulletins are sent out, and maybe what I'll do is bring Bruce on from Lexipol to talk about some of those backgrounds and the training and the bulletins that will go out with this to ensure that officers are and firefighters are aware of the policies and have read them.
Okay. Scott, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, members of council, thanks very much for the opportunity to join you for the meeting this evening. And Karen wasn't able to join me from the law enforcement side, but I can certainly address some of the concerns and some of the questions that all of you have had this evening in regards to the services that Lexipol is prepared to provide the city of North St. Paul. There's a couple of main things that are kind of the keystones of our program. Certainly one of them is the policy that has been discussed here tonight at the meeting. And really it becomes a question of policy compliance is really the keystone for what most municipal and public safety organizations are trying to do. And it's really with the forefront of where Lexipol comes in. We have not only as City Manager Dudek has mentioned, where we have a public safety attorney team, but we also have a content team, and it's a multi-layer review and examination of what's going on in the public safety space for law enforcement, for fire, and that's an ongoing review that happens from a federal requirement standpoint, state legislative, state case law that a lot of times will affect challenges that you've been talking about here in law enforcement space, use of force and all kinds of other issues, non-lethal devices. And there's a lot of times emerging trends that are going to be surfacing. And then how does the city respond to those? And really there's two scenarios in the outcome. One of them is that your local staff can try to keep up with those the best you can. We still have to figure out how to author them and all of those different things. But where Lexipol comes in is that our research is going to have a template already in place on how we write this public safety policy to be solid, legally defensible, and is going to comply with those mandates that we're all required to follow. It doesn't matter if you're a law enforcement agency or a fire agency. As a city, trying to meet those liability concerns is where we're at. But the other thing that I want to mention here is that Lexipol doesn't mandate policy for a local government. It is our intent to provide a consultation and to be that expert in the field from a compliance standpoint, but we will also work with your staff, as has been indicated here, where we are going to work with your department leaders and heads to make sure that we also include the unique operations that you guys have in North St. Paul for both law enforcement and fire. That's the reason for that second cost that you see beyond the annual subscription. What that's going to do is that's going to engage our legal team and our content team working with your department heads to merge your existing content with Lexipol's and get it into a unified, standardized format that's going to provide that compliance requirement as well as meeting your unique needs for your community at the same time. That will all be hosted in the Lexipol server. And then every single time that there is a change to a policy, one of the big concerns that a lot of public safety agencies have today is how are we communicating change? Because it's happening very rapidly. So that's actually built into our system, and it's an automated change. So that way, when change to content occurs within the system, every member of the police department will be notified of a law enforcement change. Every member of the fire department will be changed of a policy change for the firefighters at the same time. There's a confirmation that happens with that. It's trackable and traceable. And then also, as the city manager had mentioned, we will provide training, both on the law enforcement side for the policies that they receive and for the fire service on the fire department side. And we'll make sure that that ongoing training happens so that way people are knowledgeable about the policies that the city has in place and they're able to be following those and meeting the needs of the community.
Very good. Thank you, Bruce. Any questions of Bruce? Otherwise, we can bring Chief Laughlin for his comments on this also.
Any questions for Bruce?
I have one. The question that I have is, you referenced that all this information resides on your cloud or your website. Mm-hmm. Who technically owns the format and the content? So you'll take North St. Paul's residing policies, bring them on board, and make recommendations, suggestions, amendments accordingly. In the event that we choose to sever an agreement with you at some point in time, who owns the content? And is it a content that would be provided back to the city in a format that would be usable to us? Or is it in some type of proprietary format, which we're kind of left to start all over again?
That's a great question. And to be very frank with you, we want to make sure that we're 100% transparent with that expectation as well. So within the agreement language, it will clearly state that you and the city of North St. Paul will always have access to all of the content, regardless if it came originally from Lexipol or from the city of North St. Paul. And you will have the ability to obtain an electronic as well as a hard copy of all of the content that is hosted in our server at the time that you sever the relationship with our company. Now, beyond that, we do maintain intellectual rights to the content that Lexipol provides. While you'll have unbridled and no restrictions on the use of it internally, we do maintain the intellectual property on the content that originates from Lexipol, but we do not take any ownership from any of the content that is included from the city of North St. Paul, and we don't put any claim or restriction on any of that content. The main idea here is that we are just simply trying to protect our business interests. So that way, if somebody were to call the fire chief, for example, and say, hey, do you have a social media policy that was originating from Lexipol? We would just ask that the chief would encourage them to do business with our company so that they could enjoy the same benefits that your city has. Otherwise, there's not going to be any encumbrance or any unreasonable restriction, especially for your internal purposes, because there will not be any restriction on you continuing ownership or use of that content. And it's clearly stated in the agreement when you agreed to start with our company.
So one quick follow-up. So you referenced intellectual property and you referenced, say something on use of social media. If North St. Paul does not have a social media platform, a social media policy, and that's something that you provide to us, does that become intellectual property to you? And then that policy no longer would move forward to us?
No, you still will always have a copy of every single policy and the entire library of content that Lexipol provides. And it's important to keep in mind that when you start with Lexipol, the basis of this integration of your existing content with ours is also based on over 180 policies and over 55 standard operating guidelines that you get with the fire department and a similar volume that you get for law enforcement content. And so it's that content that is available the day you start with Lexipol that we maintain intellectual property of. As it's migrated, you will still maintain ownership and from a legal standpoint of any content that's provided by the city of North St. Paul. We're only going to maintain ownership of our content, but we're not going to restrict your use of it. And so it's just simply that intellectual property ownership that we want to make sure that we clearly communicate to you. No restriction on use at any time, even after you sever ties with us for your own internal use.
Thank you.
We want to get Tom on the line, or
Chief Roth, are you available?
Yeah, I'm available.
Tom, maybe your background or your thoughts for the Lexipol for your department?
Well, I believe it's something that's sorely needed. I mean, especially I think this is a very appropriate time to talk about it, being that I'm out of here at the end of the month. And I think when we had this meeting before, I said most of the policies and stuff that we have pretty much fall on me. I've created them. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school or anything else. And I steal from people that I can. And I run stuff by our attorneys as whatever. And, our stuff really hasn't been updated except for the mandated policies that we get pushed down from the legislature and post since 2015. It's too timely of a thing or time consuming of a thing. It's very difficult to do when you have so many other things going on and you're crushed for staff time, as Chief Manager stated earlier. And, just as Bruce showed, this stuff comes out all the time. They've got the lawyers. It's specific to Minnesota, what's required. Most of our neighboring agencies are looking at this or already have this service because of just it's so difficult to stay up on. And I mean, we could keep our city attorney ourselves just busy all the time on policy reviewing, updating, and trying to stay up with what's the legislators doing, what's coming out now and everything, and the different dates on it, when everything's effective and everything. Where here as Lexipol just pushes this out to us as we need it. And that's, and we do review it and, we accept or go on with the things, but I can't believe a more appropriate time to really look and consider this at this time.
I think that's the environment right now of policy, procedure, and all that. And Tom, I've seen your office. And I know there's a lot of people work there.
I think that's, with the respect of the chiefs of the police and fire, this is something that has always internally been done here, and it's been our best effort to do that. But to stay up on the laws and legislation and the legal, this would have no comparison to what we have currently used.
Bring us out of the dark ages. I think we talked about that earlier, getting up and into 2021, and this would definitely raise us up there.
How long has Lexipol been around?
Bruce, do you want to comment maybe on Lexipol's time startup and maybe use across the country and around our area?
Sure. Yep. I'll be glad to. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lexipol started in 2002. We actually got our start in the state of California. Our founders, both of them were in law enforcement and on the legal side of law enforcement, either with the California Highway Patrol and so on. We then expanded on the West Coast primarily, but currently today for our law enforcement content, we're in 34 states in the U.S. We're in 27 states in the U.S. for fire content today, and that's expanding every single year with bringing on new states. But what that also does do is it puts us in a unique situation where we are seeing emerging trends at the national level, and it puts us in a position to be able to anticipate industry changes for both the law enforcement and the fire service space, and keeps us at the forefront and ahead of much of this legislative change that we've seen in the public safety space over the last 18 months, and hopefully will keep us front of all of that and keep you ahead of the game as well.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other questions for city manager or any of the chiefs or Bruce?
I have a question in regards to the League of Minnesota Cities. So with the body cameras, we referred to them to provide us with ideal policy. Are there other resources that we could benefit from the league for free? Because we're looking at a large cost, as Councilmember Thorson had discussed, and that would change the budget as it is. So,
Chief Loft, do you have any comment on that, or Bruce?
Well, the league stuff is out there, always has been, but much like with the body camera thing, that took us to go out there and look at it, get it, bring it in. Again, we're talking staff time and stuff and refining and reviewing it to how does it fit ours. The league puts out some very general stuff on that, good step things to follow and everything like that. So this is just a more, I would say, a more focused delivery on everything for it, and it definitely reduces our staff time with the league going through what they have there and adapting it to us. We're still using our legal team or city attorneys ourselves, and we're still using our staff time pretty much like we were. And I think city manager saw that when he was involved with the body worn cameras policy and stuff, just the amount of time and the heavy lifting that was done just to get that around to a point where it was presented to you.
I think the other comment, and Bruce, maybe you can comment on this also with your background in this, but the League of Minnesota Cities has these basic policies, something in a broad sense of like body worn cameras, but the policies that we're talking about here, and maybe even Chief Manager can comment, there's many policies down to, more operational things directly for fire operations or police operations that I'm not aware of, that the league gets down to those minuscule policies that are very important for the day-to-day operation. But Bruce, I'll let you comment on it first, and then Chief Manager.
Sure. So one of the things that Lexipol prides themselves in is looking at the industry as a whole. And, what we find, and nothing and no disrespect to the league or other organizations like them that our company interfaces with on a national level, but a lot of times those policy changes are reactive in nature because of an event that either happened significantly at the state level or even in some cases at the national level. But one of the other things that we also see is we see a lot of triggering events that happen either because of federal legislative change or because of state legislative change, case law changes, or all those types of things. And then the other thing is, what is the time frame and the turnaround between when that change occurs before the league has time, along with the other services that they provide, to get that policy out there. And then, as was mentioned, the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to take that information and import it into your local technology, go through a ratification and all those different things in order for that to be ratified and ready to be used. The difference with the way that Lexipol is going to do this is once we get the research done, those changes are actually going to be uploaded into the content as a suggestion. So what we will then do is streamline that entire process. So that way now the department heads are going to be able to very quickly see what's being removed, what's being added. They'll be able to present it to council. It will be 100% transparent. but it'll streamline that approval process and get action taken to get those updates that are needed in place as quickly as possible with as little effort on everybody's part.
Chief Manager, do you have any follow-up with that?
Yeah, my understanding, I guess, of, again, the League of Minnesota Cities, that what I've looked at and found, like Scott said, is they have a good base of basic policies that are out there for communities across the state of Minnesota to adopt that, you know, don't have those resources to really put things into place. But again, like Tom said, it still takes the steps required on our end to take what they have and formulate it into our own. And I haven't been able to, again, roughly speaking, I know I have currently about 45 to 50 of our current policies and a few SOGs that I'll call wrapped in there as well that we follow. And I know there's a lot more out there that we just haven't been able to implement into it. So I'm not so certain 100% that the league is going to help us the same way, but that's just from my own opinion of things and how I've seen it.
Chief Loth, any other follow-up comments?
Well, just it's the league is more broad-based. These other policies will be dealing more with the basically our day-to-day things that we're doing, our use of force, our just all these different things that the league doesn't really touch on, or the model policies handed down from post or in the legislature. I mean, they reference them, but they don't actually put the wording together for you and stuff like that. Like we just had the use of force and deadly use of force statutes updated, which required a policy and stuff like that. And from what I see, Lexipol had their updates right away for the agencies that I've seen and everything on it. Well, we struggled to get ours to meet post new mandates. So it's things like that, yeah, you know, this would take a huge load off the, you know, the staff, particularly my position right now.
I think it potentially takes the load off, but it ensures that we're going to get these policies in place. That's, I think, has been the big issue, and what we've heard from others, that some departments have moved forward with it, but have not taken the implementation, and they maybe had the service for, you know, 2-3 years and still don't have the policies implemented because they keep, you know, pushing it aside because something more important comes up.
I think that, like I said, the environment is changing and it's very dynamic right now. I think things are changing real quick as events happen around the country, and you're going to have more and more policy changes that are coming down the pipeline that you have to react sooner than later. So if this gives you guys the tools, you know, to respond to that, to respond to those, I think it's, you know, to me, it's beneficial. But I leave it to you, you know, to the chiefs to understand what's going on, and you know, Lexipol, make sure that you are getting the information that you need to get. You know, if it's different than you know, League of Minnesota Cities, like Councilmember Wong said, you know, I think it would be beneficial if we do use something that gets us updated sooner than later, and you have to spend less time on it. I don't know if Jason, if you think that's a fair statement or not, or.
I would agree with that. Again, League of Minnesota Cities is going to present some base types of policies out there for us to build upon and definitely use, but we're going to have to implement them ourselves and do the work to build them towards our department and change them, if you will. And again, they're not going to have all of the minor operating details. I think for the fire department, it's a little bit different as far as, you know, risk is involved and safety. I mean,
I want my firefighters to be safe, and I want to teach them and show them how to do it. But I think of police officers, and I've talked to people that I know that are police officers that are in communities that have Lexipol and utilize them and have had them for many years. And just within this last year alone, they were talking about they had 8 updates alone with their use of force. So when we talk about needing to make sure our people are up to date with those changes that have been made, now there's an avenue to easily get our people updated and to put into use. For me, obviously, I don't know that I would ever have something that would have 8 changes within a year, but with a part-time paid-on-call department, it's difficult for me to take my time and spend it on training of policies when we have a lot to keep our people trained up on, as every minute of their time here is important, and we have to do those things. So being able to utilize different ways to have them train on their own, if you will, at their own leisure, to be able to get that completed and to be able to track that is kind of a weight, if you will, lifted off of all of our shoulders to be able to have a tool to help manage that.
All right, any other discussion? Thank you. If not, the motion is for a resolution authorizing the purchase of Lexipol policy services for police and fire. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cole.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yep, Councilmember Wong.
How does the public, does the public have any input, such as a public hearing as we did with the body worn cameras? Is that the same processes if the implementation were to be passed?
I'll let the chief comment on that, but I believe the body worn policy is the only type of policy that requires that. Because again, there's so many multiple policies, just as the fire is talking about, upwards of 50 policies in the fire department, and the police department probably has far more than that. And a lot of those are, operational policies. But I'll let the chief comment on that, and Bruce also if need be.
Yeah, correct. The body worn cameras right now is the only one mandated by law that we had to have the public hearings on and everything. That doesn't mean it's not going to be so in the future. I think you're going to see a lot more of that as things change. And as the mayor said, everything's dynamic nowadays as for quickly changing and having the ability to adapt. And my point on that would be, with that coming forward and knowing that makes it even more important to consider a service such as Lexipol to be able to do that. So I think that will help us in that fact. It will free up staff time for other things, and then possibly, maybe not a Citizens Academy or something, but something similar we can do for reaching out to the public and sharing some of these things with them that we can share that aren't operational, that don't put officers or anybody in harm's way or could possibly compromise them. But it will allow us to be more transparent or an open book with the public too, I think.
And from the Lexipol standpoint, we have a workflow that's established within the platform to where if public comment or disclosure to the public is needed or desired, there is actually a workflow where policies work from a draft format to an approved format, and then even in its an approved status before it's actually issued to the officers or the firefighters or any of those kinds of things. There is certainly opportunities to pause for disclosure, conversation, or debate, or any of those kinds of things from a platform standpoint from Lexipol also.
Bruce, is there a public portal through Lexipol for policies?
there is not through the platform. Now, we do have a lot of communities, however, that do choose to actually put Lexipol policies, once they've been ratified and all of that kind of stuff, into a public forum such as the city website or something similarly to that. And that certainly is an option for the community to consider. And we do have other communities, police, fire departments that do that from time to time.
Is that included in the current proposal or bid?
It wouldn't change the price from Lexipol's standpoint at all, because you would still be doing all of the work as is provided in the proposal right now. It would be whatever the city decided to do with that information once it's ratified and where it's housed outside of our platform. So it wouldn't change the cost as presented in the proposal.
Councilmember Wong.
I just want to state my concern is the lack of public input into these policies given the state that we live in now. I think that that community engagement piece should be really critical in some of the decisions that we make here at council, especially during this time.
Okay, duly noted. We have a motion.
I have one more comment. It's a comment, not a question, and it's along the lines more of a thank you to both our chiefs and to Scott for identifying some definite deficiencies that we have within North St. Paul, whether it be from body-worn cameras where our officers were taking their cell phones and turning them around, whether it be to 15, 16-year-old tasers that would potentially allow us to, not have the right tools and equipment to do what we need, and to follow through with some structured policies and procedures. I truly think that, and I recognize what Councilmember Thorson said with regards to costs. I think it would cost us more if we didn't have something like this in place than what it would cost us to implement.
Okay. We have the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, our next item brings us back to our review of the Housing Redevelopment Authority that we've talked about this evening in our workshop. And primarily, I think the question becomes there, again, with the participation with the county HRA. And again, I just want to preference it. It's not unnecessary. You don't feel that you have to make a decision this evening, but wanted to, again, bring that back for comment and question. And we do have Commissioner Reinhardt is on the meeting here with us, available again for comment, and also Josh Olson, Ramsey County staff. So I'll turn that back to council for some discussion.
Right, from the workshop, I think we discussed it, and if there's any more discussion on it, we can talk about it now. Any council member?
I would just propose that, given our discussion and that the fact that, we need to meet as an HRA and have some discussions over how we're operating and potentially, changing that or instituting new policies or what have you, that we just table this until we have that discussion. And, that's not to say that, we're not up against a hard deadline with the county. I mean, I know they've asked that we have a decision with them before they start their budget process for this in July. But I mean, if it gets beyond that point and we decide as a council after we've had more time to discuss this that we want to join in, I don't think they wouldn't allow us to, based off of their comments, because they stated if we were to join and changed our mind and wanted to get out, that we still had that ability as well. So I don't see, unless everyone would like to vote on it tonight and move forward or bring it to resolution, I think we should just table it for future consideration after we've had time to talk about this more.
I think even having an HRA meeting and talk about it in that might be might be a good idea. So if we can schedule an HRA meeting sooner than later.
Commissioner Reinhardt, is there a date from the county that you're looking for an absolute yes or no?
To be effective in for 2022, I believe that we have to certify that in July 1st. And I see Josh shaking his head yes. So for the next years, for 2023 use, we would need to have a decision from North St. Paul if you want to join in for that year by July 1st.
So we have a little time here.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could schedule, thank you, Victoria. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we can do that. We'll schedule an HRA meeting.
Yep. From that, we're going to reports. You want to schedule the meeting now, or?
We can, or we can, yeah, whatever you'd like to do.
If we want to schedule now,
if we want to make it part of one of the council meetings, that's what we've done in the past. We've done the HRA meeting.
Yep, let's do that.
So we could just add it to one of the upcoming agendas.
We could do June 1st or June 15th. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter, either one.
We look at the, I guess, look at the agenda that we've got coming up and put it in where we've got plenty of time to talk about it.
Good idea.
Okay.
And
Victoria,
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Dudek, I guess I would prefer that you have it on June 1st because of the timing of all the paperwork that we have to fill out and have ready by June or by July 1st. So if you could do it on June 1st, that would be great.
Okay, we'll take a look. Take that into consideration when he's doing the schedule. Thank you, Victoria.
Next item that we have, Mayor, is rescinding the COVID-19 local pandemic emergency declaration.
Finally get rid of that.
Yes, it's been a long time. And basically what this is would rescind the proclamation that was put in place over a year ago. And it was established on March 17th, 2020. And it was a local emergency declaration at that time.
So I've got everything here. I've got the declaration. I've got the declaring the local emergency. So is the motion just for?
Just to remove that declaration.
To remove the declaration of pandemic local emergency declaration established March 17th, 2020.
Correct.
Is there a motion to?
So moved.
So, really? So moved by Councilmember Thorson. Second.
There she is.
Second by Councilmember Peterson.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
I only have one question.
Yes.
The governor hasn't removed his executive order yet due to financial things that would benefit. Is there anything financial that we would be giving up by, Scott, I see you shaking your head no, that we would be giving up by this?
I'd like to get counsel or Shauna, if she could.
Yeah, Shana can comment on that.
Shana, sorry, Shana.
That's been our concern all the way through this whole process with the different, and the CARES funding and the different funding that have come out. None of them have been based off of that if you've had an emergency order in place, but I'll let Shana comment on it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. That is correct. None of the federal funding that we've been the recipient of or any of the state funding has been contingent upon a local emergency declaration. I would note that a lot of our state laws that reference emergencies do reference the fact that if a state of emergency is declared on a state level, that's generally sufficient for whatever process needs to occur. So, in the event, something like that comes up, we could certainly address it. But at this point, there's no harm in lifting the state of emergency on a local level. There's no financial impact that we are aware of at the moment. Certainly, if things change in the future, we could readdress it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. So we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Getting back more to normal.
One step at a time. Very well.
Turn it over to you, City Manager, for updates.
So Mayor, Council, as you can see, we've got some of the updates listed in here, and that's the goal to, as we continue to build out this new program with Civic Clerk, to really put all the information in here as much as possible so that if there are reports or things like that, it's not going to be action items, but it's something that can be here for the council to see and also for the public to see. So a couple of them that you'll see in here. This first one is the monthly building permit report. And you can see the information there. And I just wanted to put this in, draw some attention to it. It's another, work that's going on in the community and something that we've been very proud of over the last couple of years of the work that's going on in the redevelopment. And this goes on to show the permit number, the type of work that is done, and the total dollar amount for the month. So you can see $792,425.38 in value of work being completed in North St. Paul for the month of April, with the total permit cost associated. So the intent would be to continue this monthly report so that you can see the activity that's going on in our community. And this is wide range from commercial work to homeowner projects to throughout the city. And this ties back to our finance director, Jason, talking about the permit revenue. And so you can kind of keep an eye on that and see where we are with revenue and what's going on, going up or down. But as he mentioned earlier in this evening, we anticipate that in the coming year to taper off because these large developments that we have will be coming to conclusion. But so that's what this report is about, and we intend to continue doing that on a monthly basis as we do submit these reports to the state also.
Just a clarification question: is this included into OpenGov, and then you can kind of see the data visualization of it?
That's correct. Okay. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let's see, the next item, our city cleanup event. So not a lot of information yet, but that was a very, very large success. We've had a number of residents that sent thank yous and comments on it, that it was very well organized and went very smooth. Appreciate all the staff help and volunteers that showed up that day, council members that were there. It really went well. I mean, the lineup where we had cars lined up on the site before 7 o'clock in the morning, and it really went well. And a number of over 500 cars we had that day. And so as the vendors get back to us with their totals, electronics was one of the very big items. And so the electronics vendor will get back to us with their total tonnage and commodity report and all of that. So we'll share all that information. I believe there was 13 dumpsters, roll-off containers that were hauled that day by Tennis. So we'll get a full report of all the tonnage, the tires and appliances and all those different things that were taken that day. But a lot of thank you from residents.
It was amazing the amount of people that were, saw them 2-3 times going through the line. It was pretty funny.
Yes.
Just not a big enough car that they had, so to keep going back.
The other one is the Civic Clerk platform that we've been talking about all night. And I don't know, Carrie, are you still available? Are you online with us yet? Oh, she's still.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh yeah, Carrie, maybe if you want to go ahead with some more further detailed update on this, and as we're continuing to implement and roll this out and learn and grow with it.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Like I said in the workshop, this was our first packets that we created out of the tool. So there's been a couple bumps and bruises, but it was a great learning tool for staff. And where the value is really going to come on, that I hope council will see as we continue our work, is how we as staff can be more planful for you, and we can start building the packets and the agendas as we get the information, so that it's not such a hurry up and rush. We can start building meetings out even in advance when we know that there's special reports or there's reminders of actions. We can be more planful in how those meetings are put together. And our mission is to get that information to you sooner. So the faster and the better and the more efficiently we as staff can work to get all the information that's needed in the packet, the sooner we can get it out on the website, the sooner we can get it to you. And we're about halfway through our implementation. We actually have a meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow to go through some of the system settings that we still need to work on. And then there will be another module for you as elected officials. It's a webinar process that you'll go through that will help you understand how to use the tool, how to access it, how to run the meetings. There's online voting on this tool. There's the other thing that I'm really excited about is the vendor is going to pull from 2019 on, they're going to pull our agendas and our minutes and all of our data off our website, implement it into this tool. And then this will have a great search feature. So we can assign, if there's a project working on, body cams, tasers, we can put tags in there so that you as council members, if you want to go back and do research, say, when was that meeting that we talked about this? The search features will be much better for you, so you can kind of go back and recreate the whole all the information that's been provided, and so that you can be more planful, or if you're helping, answer resident questions and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a little bumpy this first time, but we really, as staff, needed to take this step so that we could be working with the vendor to find out what our issues were so we can get them fixed. And like I said previously, if council wants any kind of training or way to navigate it, as staff and our vendor, we're certainly available to help you with that.
One of the other sections that we'll add to this, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were talking about it today, the resolutions. Mm-hmm. So the resolution is one of the things that we had to add to the agenda, because those are attachments right now. And that will be added to this platform. So there will be a line item virtually for the resolutions. The resolution would be created within the platform, and it's there. And it takes away, again, that second guess, or was there supposed to be, should have there been, shouldn't there been. It'll all be part of the platform. Go ahead, Carrie. Any other comments, Carrie?
I was just going to say the tool also has a built-in resolution numbering and ordinance numbering for us as well. So again, the more digital tracking we can put on things, the better we can search, the better we can answer questions, the better we can provide information. And that's really the big functionality that this will bring to the city of North St. Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Other items, a couple of that I did not have on this on their list here, but one of the things I wanted to get council direction or clarity or vote on it is we've been talking about recording of meetings, and tonight we've added another commission. So we've added the Arts and Culture Commission. So I just want to get clarity on that of the recording process or non-recording processes of all of our meetings, council meetings, planning commission meetings, EDA, HRA, Park and Rec, and now the Arts Commission. The Design Historical Review was eliminated, but just want to get a formalized where we stand with that and what the requirements the council would like in place.
Personally, I would like to see if there's any meeting that can be recorded. Should be. I think the Planning Commission and definitely the City Council meeting, but in the workshop, because they're all done inside City Hall here. I can see where we're running into the Park and Rec is going out into the parks, and I think it's important for them to get out there. And if they have the ability to be able to record out there, they maybe will work towards that. But if they can't, I think just having the minutes is appropriate for them. I Arts Council, I don't know where they're going to meet yet. I don't think we know if they're going to meet here. I think, definitely would be, they could have the ability to do it. But if they were to meet out downtown somewhere, to look at something, I think if they have the capability to do it, to go live, they have that choice, I guess is what I would say. That's my opinion. Anybody else? Councilmember Thorson.
Well, I think there's no doubt we have the ability to record any meeting anywhere. I mean, you can pull out your phone and capture audio and video. We've had some sort of camera set up at the business association meetings where those are simultaneously live streamed on our, I believe it's Facebook page, and then uploaded onto our YouTube account. So, and all this stuff can be done relatively inexpensive. We're not talking about buying professional, IMAX theater type of things like we kind of have in this setup, but we've got cameras all over in here. We've got cameras in the Sandberg room. We've got the ability to send one person out with camera and audio equipment to record remote meetings. But I think you bring up a good point about, the meeting minutes. And if you look at the meeting minutes, and I was going to pull this, but didn't, but the meeting minutes from our last workshop, I mean, we had pretty extensive I had pretty extensive discussion about the audit findings, and there's the meeting minutes just make mention that there was a presentation given. There's no detail on, even Council Member Thorson asked these questions, just something to reference. I mean, so if you were just relying on meeting minutes, there wouldn't be much there to go off of. Now, thankfully, we record these meetings and it's available on our website so you can go back and listen. But I know I've used this as a tool in the past to pull up meeting minutes and kind of look and give reference to what briefly was discussed and go through notes and whatever. So to me, as a policy or just how we function as a city and being open and transparent and professional, I think it's a no-brainer every meeting. And to me, the more important thing is access to what's going on here. And in the past, it's been, well, if you want to know, come on up. And especially like an EDA meeting that's held at 3 p.m. That's just not practical for a lot of people. And, it's 8:30 tonight and we've talked about important things, but I think a lot of people might not think this is, entertaining or what have you. So maybe they want to watch pieces of it at their leisure or what have you. But the whole idea of keeping public informed, having multiple options. I know it's been frustrating in dealing with, I think Zoom is what's causing a lot of these audio issues like John Schmal pointed out and whatever, but we'll get through that. And if we just can't, then we'll go to something else. I mean, they're not the only ones out there that offer this thing, but I think it's extremely important for multiple reasons why, and I thought there was kind of a consensus before, but yeah, if we need to make it official city policy or put it to a vote, maybe we don't have to do it tonight, but at some point moving forward. And I understand too the concerns were, these aren't, we're elected officials and we're held to this high standard and we're subject to criticisms and what have you, but a lot of these people on the commissions they're there not to be share the same scrutiny like we are, but especially when there's conversations that, are had at, discuss spending money or, whatever, the more public engagement we can get, the better. And having those opportunities for everyone, for whatever reason, I think is important, and we need to make that step.
So Member Cole.
My apologies, I jumped right in.
Councilmember Peterson.
No, I agree with Council Member Thorson. It's to be transparent is important. And I know I like the idea that the park and rec are going to be back in the parks, and that's important. And there's a way to capture all that too, I think. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, I think the increase in access is a huge benefit to the public, and I think that's a good direction to go.
Councilmember Cole.
I believe that we should record where possible, but you look at a Park and Rec meeting that takes place. Part of what the Park and Rec is to be out in the parks during the summer months when we can. We also have community engagement meetings prior to the Park and Rec meeting where the community is invited, and we hope that they stay. If they can be recorded, that's great. If there's issues with it, I don't want somebody to come in and criticize for the inability for, poor audio or something like that because it's done outside. I think it's more important that the Park and Rec meetings be held outside where possible and back in chambers or in Sandberg room when not.
And I think that would be my only comment to, Councilmember Thorson's comment of having this as the recording for the minutes, things like that. Because in a park setting, it won't be there. I mean, without having individual mics on people because of the ambient sound and things like that. I mean, if we were using an iPad or something like that to be, set back and recording the group, it's just, you're not going to pick up people's comments from a distance.
I'll just make one suggestion. You could literally go like this. Okay, I'm going to talk and make my point. You can pass a microphone around, right? And if that's a small procedural change that's a little inconvenient, this whole idea that it can't be done is just.
Well, I think it can be done, but you got to be practical too. You got to have, if it's like at the Business Association, we got a phone set on a tripod. And if you got, I don't know how many people are in the Park and Rec, 10 people. And plus if you got people coming to the park and it's windy out or whatever, and you got a phone set up, you're not going to pass that phone to every person.
Yeah.
I agree with Councilmember Cole that if the audio doesn't pick up, you don't want to be scrutinized now. You don't want to, something happened that it wasn't working properly. I would agree that if there's the ability to do it, have it done. But if you can't, and if there's a problem with it, you don't want to be scrutinized that all of a sudden, no, we can't do it. Even here sometimes we screw up.
I just want to be consistent to set the policy for the Arts Commission as they're going to be starting that what the policy is across the board for the commissions.
And my comment is just that I'm aware of technologies out there. I mean, we have a microphone that's wireless that can get brought out and turned on and passed around. I mean, I don't think that's inconvenient. And microphones can be linked up with video equipment. Again, I'm not an expert, but we're around this stuff enough to know, like, it should not be an issue to get accurate audio recordings in an outdoor setting. But if the opinion is that we don't want to do that for other reasons, then fine. But to use that as an excuse, the technology is not there, is just, I don't think that's, a legitimate one. But, I guess we won't find out unless we try it at least, right? I mean, if we have stuff currently that we can test it out and just another thought that came in my head, that if there's issues with people, speaking out of turn or whatever, at least that can help keep the meeting decorum in the meeting. You're not allowed to speak unless you get the microphone in your hand, I guess, if that's ever an issue or not. But I mean, again, I'm just struggling with that idea that we can't capture audio accurately outside. It just doesn't seem legitimate in my mind, but that's just my opinion.
What's the equipment piece that I'm viewing a iPhone at the Legion, it picks up everyone. But if you have an iPhone out on a tripod and it's windy out and people are spread out, I don't think it's going to pick up all the audio. We have to have different equipment than an iPhone. We have to do figure out something else. I don't know what that is.
We do have an iPad, you know, just like what you have. So that iPad could be used as a recording device. Now, I don't know if a microphone can be, you know, Bluetooth microphone per se can be added to that, but we could work with our recording group here with our cable and try to find out some of that. But that would be my thought, that if we are going to record outside, it would be on an iPad and then some type of interface with a mic that could pass, I suppose.
I suppose we could try it, and but I think it's important for the Park and Rec to be out into the parks, to be able to get public input. It was something that was started a few years ago, and we get not a lot of people, but a good response from people in the neighborhood that come to the parks. And if we can't do it, they're still taking minutes. It's just my own personal view.
And just to clarify, I don't think that's the intent of this, is to stop that at all. Again, the intent is to expand that. It's great that people come, and you know, this is another way to engage the public. And you know, we just experienced, you know, a whole basically 9 months of Zoom meetings. You know, it was an adjustment, but we got through it. The technology exists to have this. I mean, this isn't like we're asking something. There's microphone. They look like a big fluffy rabbit's tail or whatever. You put it over your recording device, it cuts the wind significantly. I mean, these things exist. But if it's just we don't want to do it because, fine, but it's not because we can't do it. I mean, we certainly can.
So direction, I guess, council as a whole, do we, at this point, I just need a final one way or the other?
I would say that, yes, if they have the capability to do it, let's do it. If we don't have the equipment right now, if we got to get an iPad or whatever, we can try it.
We've got the iPad. The only thing that would have to do is a microphone if that's available.
And staff will have to bring that, whoever the staff person is or what have you, and set up an iPad or see if it works.
I am not opposed to recording. I just don't want to sit here and hear scrutiny that you can't hear it.
Right.
Well, we're struggling with that right here in this chambers. And I think I'm confident that we can resolve that issue and all other audio concerns. You know, I mean, there's probably something we can do here that we get budgeted a certain amount of money to spend on technology from our franchise. Is it it's the PEG fees? Correct. PEG fees. And I know we just went through a big upgrade here, but and the franchise fees also can be used for that kind of stuff. So, and again, this stuff is not like we're buying $100,000 audio equipment, right? It's, you know, spend 5 minutes on YouTube and see all these people that are, you know, videotaping themselves with all this equipment that it's mind boggling, you know, TVs nowadays. I mean, this TV 10 years ago probably would have been $30,000 or $40,000. And nowadays, you know, I don't know, did we even spend over $800 on it? I'm not sure, but I'm sure we could find out. But it sounds to me like there's consensus, but I mean, if we need to put a vote on it, I think it wouldn't be appropriate.
Seems like there's consensus on it.
Because I think we would need to have actual policy and
if that consensus is there, I just want to know how to move forward with it. Because I know there's a Park and Rec meeting coming up the end of the month that they were proposing and meeting outside. So want to be able to know how to handle that, but also going forward with the Arts Commission as a new commission on what those requirements will be.
And, there's still minutes being taken. There's always staff person there. So if
From
it
a
doesn't.
Park and Rec standpoint, I can't support what Scott is asking if it means the Park and Rec Commission has to forego being in the parks for 4 meetings. We will attempt to do the best that we can, but I think the benefit to the committee and the benefit to the community is to be able to find a way to have those meetings in public, in the parks.
Good. Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. Next item I have is Quick Trip. So Quick Trip has been in pretty constant conversation with them. They're preparing for their construction start here at the end of the month. In talking to them today, they had asked about the possibility of using a room here at City Hall every Tuesday, beginning June 8th through August, for the sake of employment, doing a job fair, because they don't have anything in the area here. So they've asked if the city would be willing to allow them to use one of our meeting rooms here to conduct the job fair and hiring staff for the new location here in North St. Paul. And again, their proposal would be from every Tuesday, beginning June 8th, from 8 to 4:30.
Question, what is our, I mean, it's just everyone from the public wanted to like utilize a meeting room. There's no like rental fee? They can just call and say, is this meeting room available? I'd like to meet with.
Yeah, we haven't promoted it out as a public meeting space, but like the, Silver Lake Association or any of those groups, they've always met here at any time, more of a civic group, but we've had the school district use the space here on occasion, come up and meet in the training room and use that. I can't say that we've had, a business per se, but, promoting this local business, your council's, your thought and direction on that.
I don't.
And I also believe that the Quick Trip would probably be willing to pay something or donate something. They're very community oriented. So I think that's also an opportunity or possibility from them.
I don't see a problem with that. Councilmember Thorson, Peterson, Wong.
I'm good with it.
Get some.
I'll just say, yeah, it's a public building, and if it serves a public purpose, then there's no problem with it, right? But if they're in here trying to sell, sell things, I think that might be something different. But,
yeah, they're potentially going to be recruiting our residents to work here in the community.
Yep.
Yes, so it's
good.
It's an economic development meeting.
There you go.
So all right, we'll get back with them on that. And then just want to give some update on street overlays. I want to make sure that council knows this hasn't been lost, and it's something that we're trying to move forward with. The street overlays on Ariel Street was one of the streets that we really wanted to target and look at doing. Some of the things that's slowed that down is that's a border street. So we've been working with Maplewood on that. Maplewood has some of that same desires to do something. So WSB, Morgan, and the Maplewood group have been talking about that. So we'll have some input back on that soon. Also, the parking lot down in the downtown is also one that is being reviewed. That wanted to do an overlay on that, but looking at in a very much more comprehensive manner with also with WSB, because of the potential of the building acquisition that we won't know for sure. But if that does happen, that's going to change some traffic flows and some of the curb lines and things that are over near that area for ingress and egress of that. So that's being looked at right now to put together a small proposal or comment on that to bring back to council for consideration. And then meeting with Public Works on other general streets for overlay to get something put together so that we can get moving forward with those overlays. And they're overwhelming. I mean, there are so many roads out there. That's becoming the question is which one takes the priority. We had the list that was submitted, in our budget packet from last year, and those are what are being looked at. But after the spring patching and things like that, and then also looking at complete reconstruct, knowing that that's going to be years out. But all that information together to come forth and bring you something that we can start moving forward with, and then get bidding on those processes. But that's the updates on those large areas, Ariel and the parking lot.
I'd just like to ask a question about that, because I guess my concern now is that, I thought these conversations would be happening much sooner. but it's already end of May. What's the timeline for this? Because what I want to avoid happening is, construction starting in late September, early October, and then weather comes in, and then we have to put a stop to it. And now all of a sudden the road is torn up for an extra season where it doesn't need to be. So I guess that's my concern is, we can't control the weather, but we can control the planning and the implementation and when we're going to start. And it just seems like we're getting into the middle of it now.
I don't think the parking lot, truly, I don't think the parking lot would be a project this year, just because of the reconfiguration possibility, because that building, we won't know the outcome of that until September. Late August, I think it is. It was February 20, I can remember the date that happened in February. There's a 6-month redemption period on that. So we won't know the outcome of that until August. And the other issue with that, in looking at it, talking with all the contractors are parking there right now for the construction of the Uptown Commons building. And so if we were to take that out of construction, we would displace that. I mean, that's doable. But the biggest hindrance is now with the building and the reconfiguration of the parking lot with that building. So that's that one. The other one with Ariel, I'm certainly hopeful, and Morgan's working with that with Maplewood, that's something that we can do this year. But that one is difficult because of the joint streets and Maplewood with that and where we're going to end up with. So those to me are very questionable on whether they're going to get done this year. And Ariel would be unfortunate if it doesn't because it's in really rough shape. So they're pushing hard with Maplewood to get something determined on that. The other streets, no, definitely we'll be moving forward with that quickly and come back with you with a list of priorities that have been re-updated with Public Works.
Sounds like a lot of streets.
A lot of streets, yep, a lot of streets. And the overlay.
I know mine has gone from last year. It's pretty bad.
And that's what seems to happen. They hit a level and then they go quickly after that. But the overlays that have been done in the past have been holding up well, and I think it's been money well spent.
Good.
Lots of items, sorry. Had a meeting today with Ramsey County, Valley Branch Watershed, and City of Maplewood. This is regarding the Silver Lake aerator. It's been bantered around for a couple of years, and nobody wants to seem to take it. Ramsey County is who has it, who's been servicing it and maintaining it ever since it's been installed. And Ramsey County no longer wants to service it or maintain it because it's not part of any of their systems. If you recall, where this started out, I believe, is the Joy Park was a Ramsey County park. And that ended up getting transferred to Maplewood many years ago. So that's, I think, was the beginning of the disconnect. And Maplewood does not, at this point, does not want anything to do with servicing or maintaining or ownership of the aerator. Valley Branch Watershed, they're not sure where they want to go, but in talking to them today, they're going to take it back to their board. It's already been to their board a couple of times. They don't want to take the responsibility for it because they have no employees, they have no staff to do anything as far as putting up the thin ice signs or, starting it up or doing anything like that. They would be potentially willing to be the administrator, but then they're going to be looking for somebody else to do something with it. Ramsey County made the comment that they'd be willing to put up probably $10,000 as some initial seed or transfer money to an organization that would be willing to take it over. Ramsey County will continue to do the water testing, so to notify whatever agency is going to be in control of it when the oxygen levels in the lake require the aerator to be turned on. Electric costs, from what I'm hearing, have been ranging, depending on how long it runs, about $4,000 a season. So whether those costs can be shared or picked up by the Valley Branch watershed, or if Maplewood comes back and would be willing to do something, they were going to take it back again. But Maplewood's comment at the meeting today, they had no interest in being part of any of it. I think it's a really important piece for North St. Paul. I mean, it's the water quality issue for fish kill. Without that, prior to that being put in, there was some major fish kills and freeze out of the lake. But it's how we get to there with maintaining this and who's going to take responsibility and the cost associated with it. Over the years, the pump and baffles in the systems have had to been replaced, I think once or twice since it's been put in. And according to the county, they've been fortunate that they've been able to get either cost reimbursement or equipment purchase through the DNR. But that's not a guarantee. You know, if a pump goes out and it needs to be replaced, likely it's going to have to be replaced and then go back and see if the DNR would have funding available. So that's not a guarantee. So I just bring it up for their thought. It's again, this is being bantered around by multiple agencies and nobody wants to do anything with it. But something has to be done. It just can't be left.
Are they going to do it next year or no?
The comment is they want to get back together in a couple of weeks with conversation again. Maplewood was going to take it back and have some more conversation about their potential participation. And Valley Branch was going to take it back to their board next week for some more discussion. So then the group will get back together, and in 2 weeks was the plan to have more discussion and see if there can be a joint effort put together with this. So kind of looking for some input from council and on your thoughts of the system.
I mean, I would say, I mean, if it's important for the lake, we're going to have winter kill. Right. Someone's got to take ownership of it.
It is.
Or if it's all of us, you know, all of us take ownership.
Well, that's the push. Is we're trying to get all these agencies to be part of this, but so far, Ramsey County wants out. Valley Branch is very skittish on doing much, and Maplewood has said no. So all of them are taking back where it was left today. Ramsey County said they would put up $10,000 that could be used, but then they want to be out of it, and they will continue to do water quality or the water testing, but that's it.
Well, we all benefit from it.
That's correct.
I mean, every
and
one that you state
actually benefits. Located on Maplewood Park property. The system is a permanent structure that is now on Maplewood Park property. So there would have to be an agreement by whoever takes formal ownership of it. There would have to be an agreement if it's not Maplewood to do that.
Are there other aerators in other lakes?
No, none around. I mean, we do Casey Lake Park.
Yep.
We do that. Casey, that's a small aerator that we put out. The DNR has helped us with cost for the equipment, but it's a cost that we incur putting out the labor and putting the electric for usage.
But other communities don't?
No.
Councilmember Thorson.
I can understand their hesitation to want to, participate in that, but and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't at some point in time North St. Paul offered to buy that Joy Park area? Yeah. Okay. And I understand that Maplewood, it's kind of a weird thing because the border goes across the road, and that road kind of dissects Maplewood, and they have this weird northern portion, which is all Joy Park. And I understand they've done a lot of work up there in the past few years to kind of clean that up and fix the trail. Has it been proposed that, and again, we would need to discuss this, but if there could be some, agreement where Maplewood transfers the park to us, then the pump is in North St. Paul, then that kind of clarifies who the responsibility falls on. In lieu of them, I'm sure they're, say, sure, you can buy our park, whatever, some exorbitant amount of money. But, if their concern is that it is in Maplewood, in theory, I mean, if you're going to argue about it, it's on your property, you pay for it, right? but it does benefit us as a whole as a city. But if Maplewood's looking to say, well, we're trying to reduce costs, maybe that's something that, we're not making new land here in North St. Paul. And if we can, take ownership of that park, I know there's concerns up there too that everyone's struggled with. Maybe we're more apt to deal with those issues like trash and illegal dumping at the boat launch, and this being one of them too. Maybe we're more apt to control or monitor that stuff. So I don't know if that's in the cards or not, but
certainly take it back to him again. I know that subject had been brought up many years ago with some of the requests for annexation and all that up there from some of the residents, and Maplewood had commented the money that they had put in the park, and they weren't willing to do anything with it at that time. But it can certainly be asked. But there was not a lot of support for groups coming together to do anything with this, which is, I think it's really unfortunate for a lake of that size and a permanent structure that's in there, and the water quality. But Ramsey County is out, Maplewood is out as of now, and it would basically come down to North St. Paul and Valley Branch. Valley Branch, I'm sure, will take some level of participation, but we don't know what that is yet.
And the position of it is important?
Well, the position of it, it's permanently installed there, so it's not something you can pick up and put in. I mean, the installation was a costly build back in the day, and I'm sure there was a DNR grant to do it at that time. So it's there to stay. The other caveat to this is it's served by electric. It's just outside of our electric utility. That's the other piece of this. The electric service comes from XL because it's on that point of 120 and Joy Road there where the power comes from. So it's outside of our service area. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah,
not a whole lot of.
Yeah. But I guess I just, looking for counsel. My opinion is in some form we would participate, but I don't see us. I think there should be somebody else involved with this besides just North St. Paul. Okay. Last two items quick. Sidewalk construction in the downtown is planning to get started next week. Crews will be mobilizing in to get the sidewalk work going. So you'll see that. And then also the soft opening has occurred for the extra space storage. So they are open on a soft level as they're still waiting to get communications and things into the building. But they're working at that. So if people have storage needs, there's availability on the first floor, and then we'll be working with them to set up a grand opening and building tour and all that type of thing in the short coming future. Thank you for that long-winded.
Thank you. So, reports of council, commission, and committees. Councilmember Cole.
Next Park and Rec meeting is Wednesday, May 26th at 6:30 at Housey Park. There will be a community meeting starting at 6 o'clock. All are welcome. I'm not 100% sure who's attending the community piece. I'm sure we'll have representatives from both police and fire, but I don't know who else has been invited at this point.
I have, Tim, I was listening to two pieces of that, so I apologize, but I do have one when you were commenting about that. One thing I want to put out for council as an invite, the police are planning a swearing-in ceremony to be held at Casey Lake Park on May 25th. So I want to make sure that invite is out to council to be there if you're available. And where that's coming up with, these swearing-ins have been put off for a long time with COVID and everything. And the department has a desire to do that and get it done prior to our chief's retirement. So just with everybody's training levels and things like that going on, there wasn't an availability to do it at a council meeting here this evening. And so that was the format that the department had selected, that they could do it at Casey Lake Park on the 25th. 6:30 is the time that they planned that they would start. So if you wanted to be there 6 o'clock or thereabouts.
Good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cole?
That's it for me.
Councilmember Wong?
We have a special meeting for the Planning Commission held this Thursday at 6:30. I do believe it's still scheduled on Zoom. And then the previous meeting, we had discussed a couple of variances, one regarding a side screened-in porch, and then the other in regards to an interim request. So if you're interested, the notes are available, and that's all I have for now.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, the Ramsey County Park and Rec, there's gonna be a deer hunt for sharpshooting. Will be held early this fall. There's a lot of deer in town here. So it'll be in Maplewood and hopefully somewhere in Joy Park, I think. And they're just gonna thin the herd out a little bit. I know there's deer lovers out there, but they're getting the hostas. So they're going to do that. They're very proficient. They're sharpshooters, and they're very good at what they do. And then the deer go to a food shelf. So it's a process. It's kind of a win-win. And I have my league meeting on finally in person on this Thursday. We're probably going to see each other again in person. And I'm on an award committee for some folks, so I'm doing that. But that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Thorson?
EDA meeting was canceled and I wasn't able to attend the business association meeting because of work, but I've got nothing.
And I just got, we're supposed to have a special meeting tomorrow night. I'm gonna look into that and see if, I don't think it was posted, so I will call or have city attorney call council members tomorrow. I don't know what happened, so we'll go from there. General business, Councilmember Cole.
Just hats off to the city and staff and all who volunteered on the 8th to make the city cleanup a huge success. To build on what Scott said earlier, I think there were people there at 6 o'clock, Scott. I mean, they were, and I left at 11 and you were still there working away and there was still a line of traffic coming in. They brought in a whole lot of beds and a whole lot of other stuff. So it was great. And then to build on that, I guess the following day, I was incredibly disappointed in driving around the city and still seeing people's beds and couches and stuff like that sit at the curb. So you offer a phenomenal opportunity with no cost, and there's still some that weren't able to take advantage of it. So with that said, I would love to have added to an upcoming workshop, somebody to talk to us about ordinances and just what we're doing. And it's been brought up multiple times to me. It was brought up again here tonight. I would just like a better understanding of our city ordinances. It's not to go out and find anybody. It's not to use it as a revenue flow. It's just to continue to make sure that our community looks beautiful. And there's a lot of people that have got a lot of time and passion into the city. And I just want to make sure that we're still doing it the right way.
Councilmember Wine.
I have nothing to add, but I'm sorry that I missed the event. I was recovering from my second shot, so, but I'm really pleased to hear.
We missed you down there.
Well, it seemed like there was a lot of work to do, so I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm pleased to hear that there were 500 cars, and definitely love seeing folks come in and out of the community doing the garage sale through my window. But I think it, from the sounds of it, was a great success. So thank you all.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, I stopped at a couple garage sales because I like to do that. I didn't have my own, but people were very happy. They were very successful, and they liked the camaraderie and stuff. So I want that to be continued. And I want to wish everybody happy and safe Memorial Day, and a good wedding for City Manager Dudek's daughter this weekend. So, and I know the room now. Yeah.
Councilmember Thorson.
I have nothing.
I just want to extend our condolences to Jerry Burwald, Jean's wife, who passed away, and also Brian, our electric superintendent, for his mother being passed away also. Also, spring cleanup, I really enjoyed being down there, and we got to hear a lot of good things about the day, it was a perfect day. I mean, weather-wise, and people are really happy with it. And I want to say the car show starts July 2nd. So that, and I think that's going to fall right in place with open up the state at the time, and it's going to be perfect timing, I think. Other than that, I think that's all we have. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved, Your Honor.
Like, wow, you're quick at that.
Second.
Second by Council Member Wong. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.